Hey guys, it's Luke here and welcome back to another video. You join me today kind of in my little office space, which I thought that with everything going on right now, I'd kind of do up, put some of my model cars up on the wall behind me and kind of do a different style of video than we're used to on the channel. Now, for those of you loyal subscribers and viewers of the channel, you'll probably know that I have a big soft spot for performance golf. And as I'm sure most of you are aware, Volkswagen have recently revealed the Mark 8 Golf GTI. Now, I was meant to see this car at the Geneva Motorshow last month. However, due to everything that went on, that was unfortunately cancelled. And so I thought it'd be rude for me to not at least make a video showing my opinions and kind of analysing the car, the looks, the performance and everything like that, and kind of kickstart a selection of videos on the car, because hopefully one day I'll be able to get behind the wheel of one. So that is basically what this whole video is going to be about, kind of a virtual first look of the brand new Mark 8 Golf GTI. So those of you who have never seen a video of mine before and are new to the channel, then the reason why I have such an obsession with performance golf is because I recently owned a Mark 7.5 Golf R. I had owned that car for about a year and sold it about 5 or 6 months ago to go to the dark side to BMW. I now own an M140i, but I thought that I would definitely make a video on this because a lot of my viewers and loyal subscribers are very much so VW fans. And so am I will admit. And looking at the car now, here is the car on screen. It is a good looking car and it is very recognisably a Golf GTI, which we'll go into kind of the intricate details here and there a little bit later on in the video. But to give you guys kind of a very brief overrun of the car. Performance-wise, you're looking at a very familiar 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder. This is the EA 888 engine, which I believe is in its 4th iteration now. It's essentially the same block as some of the previous generations, but it's just had some updating and upgrading here and there. You're looking at 242 brake horsepower, which if you look back at the 7.5 Golf GTI, it's only 15 horsepower more than the standard 7.5, but is the same power output as the performance pack, which is quite a usual thing for manufacturers to do, make slight upgrades, especially when you're on the 8th generation of the GTI. Torque is 370 newton meters, which I think is quite strong, 273 pound-feet if you go in that metric, of course. Now, no real performance stats have been revealed yet in terms of me making this video, but seeing as it is quite similar power-wise to the previous 7.5 performance pack, you're looking at around 6 seconds to 60, and I'd predict an electronically limited top speed of 155. Of course, the car is remaining front-wheel drive. That is a very GTI thing. Of course, the Golf R being the range topper is the 4-wheel drive 4Motion, but this is of course remaining front-wheel drive. The Mark 8 GTI can also be chosen in 2 different transmissions, of course, a 6-speed manual, which does still maintain the golf ball style gear stick, which I think is a very nice touch, and also a fairly recognisable 7-speed DSG. An insane gearbox, one which I can 100% vouch for, and I'm sure it's going to be exceptional in the new Mark 8. Looking at the car then, start analysing some of the looks of it. Seen here finished in red, which is a very Golf GTI colour, and of course VW have maintained the red theme, red being GTI, which we'll see in the badge, on all of the details into the interior as well as exterior. Seen on the car, we have the 5-spoke 17-inch diamond cut alloys. These are the standard wheels, I believe. I believe 18-inch and 19-inch will be available, similar to the previous generation and the Golf R as well. It's a good looking car, and like I said earlier on in the video, performance Golfs don't tend to be very shouty. They seem to be quite understated and almost quite civilized, and this Mark 8 is definitely no exception. Yes, you do have some aggressive little bits here and there. You've got the large honeycomb grille, the full-length light bar at the front as well, along with the signature 2 rear exhaust pipes, 1 on each side, which is definitely a nice touch and an easy way to distinguish a GTI from, say, a Golf R. What I will say is, from these press photos we're looking at the moment, the car does seem quite boxy, and to be honest, I have an opinion where press photos never do a car justice. Some of my favourite cars nowadays are ones which I never actually liked when I saw the press photos. I haven't seen the GTI in person yet, only these photos which you're seeing on screen at the moment. Yes, it is a good looking car and it will be very, very popular because it's got a GTI badge on it. But it does seem quite boxy in areas, especially on the back where the rear end kind of just sloped right down. Yes, I know it is a hatchback, it is designed to do that, but I think it's just the proportions of, I don't know, the lighting or something on the photos, which just isn't quite doing it for me. But don't get me wrong, I do love the look of the car in general, especially from the front. It's extremely aggressive from the front end. Of course, you have those daytime running lights integrated into the honeycomb grille with those nice aggressive front headlights, along with the light bar as well. It is a very aggressive looking car, as well as being quite understated, which is what I like. I mean, comparing this to the likes of, say, the A35 AMG with the aero kit installed, this does look very understated and almost quite laid back and casual on a looks perspective, which is what I quite like, because Golfs don't tend to be shouty, and I think it'd be wrong for VW to put a massive wing on the back. That's for someone like me to do. You may remember my previous Golf R, put a nice big carbon wing on the back. It is a very businessman's car, isn't it? It's the kind of businessman who enjoys having speed and likes cars, but doesn't want to seem like the guy who parks in the car park and all the other employees kind of look at him and think, why have you done that? So delving deep into some of the details on the car, it's the first time that VW have ever put the GTI badge directly underneath the VW emblem on the back. It's quite an interesting touch, actually. It does clean up the rear of the car quite nicely rather than putting it to one side. Of course, like I said, we still have those signature chrome exhausts, one on each side, which, like I said, is a very GTI thing to do and a very easy way to distinguish one from the Golf R. Very subtle at the back again. We do have a slight little lip spoiler similar to the previous generation, but like I said, nothing major, save for an AMG with a big aero kit installed. Moving slightly forward though, we do still have a nice aggressive kind of subtle body kit, if that somewhat makes sense, with the side skirt and also a little front splitter as well. These are finished in what looks to be kind of like a satin grey kind of effect. It might be quite nice to have those in gloss black. That might be an option, who knows, to go with some of the piano black on the B pillars, for example. Moving on to something now which, albeit is quite a small and subtle addition to the car, but one which is highly important, especially for me, and that is the badge itself. Now, what I like with this is they're still maintaining the heritage look of the badge. Yes, it is in red with the chrome outer edges, but it is still very heritage, very old school, and it's one which has pretty much not changed right up from the Mark I GTI. Comparing this to the Golf R, or what we know of the new Golf R, they have changed the Golf R emblem, which I'll put on screen just for reference now. It's very clean and smooth and very modernized, which I don't necessarily like. I prefer the old school. I generally don't like change much, to be honest, as just a personal preference. But this, they have squished it slightly. It is slightly thinner in terms of the font and the letters, but it still does very recognizably seem as an OG GTI badge. Of course, like I said, it is in red, going along with, in this case, the whole color of the car, along with all of the red details here and there. But yes, just thought I'd touch on that because that for me is one of the biggest highlights of the car. One of my other highlights for the car is actually moving into the interior, which you'll see on screen now. It's very modernized, very simplistic, but you will notice some cloth tartan seats. Now, yes, praise the Lord, they have not changed those. That is, for me, the icing on the cake. It is a GTI when you have tartan seats. These, I believe, are very similar or the same as the previous generation, of course, with the red stitching, with the cloth, and actually maybe a little bit of Alcantara on the bolsters as well. But moving away from the seats, albeit they are, for me, one of the highlights, looking at the dashboard itself. Now, of course, it's very modernized, as you'd expect, so it's all pretty much digital. You get very few buttons across the whole dashboard itself, and those which are still there are kind of touch sensitive and finished in piano black as well. The screens itself are, of course, individual to the GTI with various red details here and there. Now, as standard, you get a 10.25 digital screen for the dashboard, right in front of you, of course, and as standard, you also get an 8.25 inch infotainment screen. However, that can be upgraded to the 10.25 inch. That is, of course, touchscreen and fully integrated. Going back to the driver zone quickly, that screen, yes, of course, it is digital and fully configurable. You do have a number of different modes. I believe when you pop it in sport mode or something, the dial changes to a very big central screen. You might see that on screen now. That looks awesome, and of course, carrying on with the red themes with the outside of the dials. Of course, in front of that, we have the flat bottom steering wheel, again with more red touches, nice GTI emblem at the bottom, and also a few buttons on the steering wheel, presumably to change the radio station or the look of the screen in front of you. Now that is finished in full leather, which actually looks very, very nice. Now this specific car that we're looking at today is fitted with the DSG, and normally with the DSG boxes, or any be it manual or automatic actually, you have a nice big gear selector lever, but with this, you see in the middle, it's just like a tiny little stubby little thing. It actually reminds me of the Porsche 992 gear selector. Very subtle again, but I can only assume very responsive and good to use. Of course, we do have the start stop, which I believe blinks in bright red when you're sitting in the car and you've got the ignition on to say, start me up, come on, let's make some noise and have some fun. As you'd expect as well, the cabin does look fairly roomy. You've got a large amount of storage, 2 cup holders by the looks of it, as well as a big storage bin just below the infotainment screen as well. But yeah, as a quick overrun of the interior, very, very nice in this sense, with the tartan seats as well and all the red accents here and there. One thing to notice, actually I've just noticed just before we carry on, and that is the mood lighting. The new GTI has, I believe, over 30 different lights or colours which you can configure with the car. Of course, very fittingly with this one, we can see it's coloured in red, which I believe probably is the only way to go, unless you spec a different car with different specs on the exterior and interior. Now, even though the reveal of the new GTI has only really been in the last, well, maybe month or so, deliveries are meant to start this summer. Maybe there might be some slight delay due to what's going on at the moment, but that could be quite interesting. We might be able to see a video of me getting behind the wheel of one by the end of this year, as well as some rolling around the streets of the UK and elsewhere in the world. But yeah, before I finish off this video, one other key bit of information which I found trawling the internet was different variations of the GTI which are rumoured to be a thing. Now, of course, we do have now in the 7.5 form, we have the Club Sport and also the TCR. The TCR of which I think looks absolutely stunning. Those are rumoured to be carried over to the Mark 8. So even though the power difference between the 7.5 in this standard form of the Mark 8, we might be able to see some pretty incredible power increase and aggressive increase in these Club Sports and TCR variations. We might be able to even see ones approaching that big 300 mark, which would then push the Golf R up to maybe even the 400 mark. Maybe that will be a thing. But yeah, very, very exciting things to come, that is for sure. But anyway, that is going to wrap up a fairly brief overrun of the new Mark 8 Golf GTI. I hope you guys have enjoyed this different aspect of video on the channel, the virtual first look. I've certainly enjoyed kind of bringing you the information and speaking about the car. Hopefully, like I said, we'll be able to get some more content of it in a live perspective rather than just looking at pictures on a screen. But anyway, like I said, that's going to wrap things up for today. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, please do make sure you leave a like and make sure you subscribe for all the adventures still to come.